Thank you. That feels a little loud. So it is my honour to introduce the first paper of the committee today, and this is asking members of the committee to endorse a change in non-voting members of the Skills and Employment Committee. And we have 3 new members who have agreed to join us, and so we can all be newbies together, and then also another representative who has, we've had a change in representation from the Federation of Small Businesses. So therefore, I would just like to introduce the members and then ask that we go to recommendation to endorse that they join us. So firstly, we have our non-voting school representative, which is Matthew Hall, who is with us today. So welcome. In addition to that, we also have Liz Barrett, who joins us as the representative for the voluntary community sector. And then in addition to that, we also have a representative from our Business Advisory Board, which also had me slightly worried for a moment because it is another hall and an M hall. So it's welcome to the committee as well, Malcolm. It's good to see you. And then finally, I don't believe that we have Jen with us today, but Jennifer Thomas is going to be the new representative from the Federation of Small Businesses. So therefore, I would seek your endorsement that you are content to welcome these non-voting members to the board. Thank you.
Yes, and indeed, very much. And again, Fliss will introduce and talk us through this item.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start by saying that Andy Williams unfortunately isn't with us today, and he has led the development and the work with the partnership in getting us to this stage in the draft that we find here today. The ask of the committee is to endorse the recommendation of this going to the full board in November for its approval. I believe that the plan has come to the committee in a number of different stages, seeking your engagement and endorsement throughout. Just as a recap, the plan comes from the Get Britain Working White Paper, which was launched last year, and this is how can we in place in a region work together as a system across multiple partners to help our residents into employment. We've been set a target of 80% employment rate. That is a high challenge for us. That's looking at least 60,000 additional people coming into the workplace. And the plan that we have in front of you, which I would welcome comments and feedback on, is how do we work together with health, with skills partners, with employment support, job centres, the voluntary and community sector, university, colleges. How do we work together to support our residents and our individuals? There are 3 priorities that have been set out, and my computer has just locked for me, so apologies, in how we work together. So one is looking at driving system change. One is looking at how we can improve the the support that we have in our skills and employment sector, and then the final one is how do we address some of those wider barriers which prevent our residents from either gaining access to the skills training that they need, but also the employment opportunities. So the ask is to endorse this to take to full board in November, but would welcome comments.
So I'll throw that open to the floor. Anyone? Councillor Winnings.
Thank you, Chair. I just very much welcome the report that's before us today, and I think it's addressed a lot of the issues that we previously flagged when we've had sight of the draft plan. Some of the statistics and information that's actually contained in here outlining the issues across the region are very welcome, and I'm really pleased to see that it actually in parts shows the differing pattern, for example, of unemployment of people who are economically inactive across the region. And I noticed that has been specified in some of the data that's actually put behind this as well. And I think it very much highlights, the low levels of disposable income that we have in the East Midlands, the need to move to, working alongside skills to attract investment into the region, higher paid jobs, green jobs in, new and emerging sectors as well. And also, the underlying issues surrounding insecure work as well. So tying this plan in with the government's new employment bill, which stopped things like hire and refire, which stopped things like, wholesale use of 0 hours contracts. Hopefully, that will create a picture both at a national and local level of creating a level platform for employers to actually create that. Obviously very interested in as well in the new employment charter that's being developed as a part of this as well. As you know, we're doing our own version in Nottingham as well. So I just want to say very happy with the report and the actions, the numerous actions that have come out of it, and we're very happy to endorse it today. Thank you.
Thank you for that very sound. Blazer, and Lillian will present that. And she's the programme manager for the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer, and she will now take us through that report. Please, Lillian.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here today to seek approval from the committee to endorse the proposal for the Year 2 of the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer, and also to make recommendations to EMCCA board to delegate the authority to our Executive Director of Strategy and Inclusive Growth in consultation with Mayor Claire Ward to use the grant funding and enter into grants and contracts with partners, as well as to make adjustments to the proposal as necessary. So where we are at the moment is Year 1 of the Trailblazer has finally started. There's been lots of work that has gone into implementation to get it geared up to start. At September, we're pleased to say that the vast majority of programmes had started delivery and engaging with young people. This ranged from May to September, and currently, I just want to note a slight adjustment to the figure in the paper. Currently, we have supported 301 young people to date, not 351 as suggested in the paper. This is really positive considering our delay, because at the end of Q2, our proposed target was actually 223 young people. So despite the delay, we've surpassed our target. That is down to the hard work and efforts that went into engaging young people across the community by our delivery partners. And in September, we were supporting 208 young people, with 93 young people completing to date. So noting the delay and the adjustments that we're making, ensuring that we're going to hit the numbers and engage meaningfully and valuably to young people in the region, we've been working together to pull together a proposal for year 2 of the Trailblazer. The draft has been submitted to DWP. We're awaiting some feedback to see if there are adjustments are made to that, but we're basically proposing that we continue with the year 1 of the Trailblazer, which is very much supported by the DWP, in order to fully and more robustly test the 8 Trailblazer programmes that EMCCA is currently running. In addition to that, we moved to propose to add an initiative to support young entrepreneurs. This is something that we felt would be really valuable, and we have worked with colleagues across the patch and had conversations with our FSB representative in order to look at how we may develop that. We want this to be co-produced by young people for young people, so that's the model that we are taking. Other than that, we've also added some provision to support 16 to 17-year-olds who are at risk of NEET. So we're really wanting to increase the engagement there and test some new models and look at how year 1 delivery of the Youth Guarantee can be widened out to that 16 to 17 cohort also.
Thanks ever so much, Lillian. An update and a sense of momentum going forward with plans submitted to the FE. We had planned to have someone who kind of from outside evaluates the programme. Have we got someone who's engaged in that?
So thankfully we have completed the procurement for that, and we have identified strong partners for the evaluation. We're just in the process of putting the contract recommendations in place, and then we will be able to award the supplier.
Right. Claire?
So I'm particularly keen that we've seen the introduction in year 2 of the supporting entrepreneurship. I think too often we don't recognise that in this country the entrepreneurial spirit and the backbone of much of our SME community comes from people who have started off on their own, and there's often not enough support for young people who may have ideas about how they want to do it, but it is a risky and scary world to be able to start from a place where you are taking all of that responsibility. University of Derby recently opened the Cavendish building, their new business school, and one of the people that they have engaged to support their entrepreneurial courses and mentoring is the former Dragon's Den star, who is a business owner right across Rymands and various other places. So kind of quite keen to understand what were we doing with the FE sector and the HE sectors to bring in some of those skills and support.
So our plan in the proposal in year 2 really describes a process where we'll be working with FE and HE sector organisations as well as young people, voluntary sector and our local authority partners to actually identify what we currently have in place and what we don't have in place that young people can access in terms of an entrepreneurship offer. So we'll be really keen to explore what's already in place and how can we add to that effectively. And then what we would like to do is actually to pull together an offer of support that's tested. So the proposal is very much about having a stage of identifying the need, developing solutions together as a system, and then testing a process. So I'd be really keen to find out what's in place already and then really build upon that, because Youth Guarantee is about adding value to existing provision across EMCCA, and that's our goal. So that'll be fantastic.
Thanks ever so much for that. And I'll just bring you in a second, Councillor Woodings, but this whole thing of, you know, encouraging young entrepreneurs to take the plunge and take the risk and get support. Sometimes people start a business up, their first one, they learn a lot when it doesn't go quite right, and they come back stronger for the second time, and they're the people that really flourish and become, you know, quite large organisations, creating wealth but also creating secure jobs, and the local economy benefits. So that's really important. I don't know if any comments from the Business Advisory Board, the rep. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you may well have some suggestions here.
I think anything that encourages youngsters to sort of dip their toe in the water and look to start their own business is obviously good. I mean, support is really essential. It is lonely being a business owner, especially a young business owner. And there's a lot of negatives now to actually dipping your toe in the water. So anything that we can do to encourage and support them is obviously essential, I think.
Yeah. Thanks. And of course, in idea of you know, taking a risk, having a go at being an entrepreneur can start in school, and I know some schools have that as part of a program of what young people can get involved in, and finding out all about the things around running a business without real risk, because at the end of the day they're doing it for a week or two, unless they're totally illicit and bringing in bars of chocolate and selling them at a ridiculous price and doing all that kind of thing, which happens all the time. Not that I would encourage that at all as an entrepreneurship, but it happens. I think you wanted to come in, Councillor Woody.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, we're very happy to support the recommendations in this paper, it's quite interesting. Obviously, in Nottingham, I think we were, as part of the year one, we've been granted, I think it's £497,000 to set up personal development plans for young people from houses where and families where nobody works at the moment. So really welcome to have that, and to have the promise within the paper that funding will be continued for another year, because I mean, it's been really good to get that funding for this year and get something set up. But I think, you know, I've been visiting out quite a lot of the different skills providers, including Nottingham College, and Access Training, and numerous other organisations as well. And the one thing they'll say is about the short-term nature of skills funding. It's 1 year, and then you might get another year for it as well, and then you might, you know, so they're constantly having to bid, and that leads to insecurity for the people actually delivering those skills training, which means that coming towards the end of a term of funding or a term of contract, not unreasonably, people will go and find a more permanent job, because, you know, the people actually delivering the skills training have to pay their bills as well. So that promise within the paper, as I say, that funding will be continued into year two, is really, really welcome. I wanted to ask a couple of questions. I mean, first of all, in relation to business support, I visited out to Nottingham College, and I know you've been as well, Mayor Claire, to visit the new construction skills site at Basford College, which is actually in my ward as well. And really interesting there, of course, one of the things they have to teach all those young people learning construction skills is how to be their own business person as well, because the vast majority of them will spend their life being self-employed and subcontracting to other companies. So knowing, you know, how to run your accounts, how to get your tax returns in on time, understanding what you can reasonably deduct from your tax bill for business expenses, as important as actually learning how to lay a plumb square layer of bricks as well. So it was really good to see that they're doing that whole sort of rounded education for those young people. I wondered, as far as we talked about, and we've got some overall figures here about performance to date, but I'm quite interested to understand each of the schemes in their locality, where the oversight is of each of those schemes, and on what cyclical basis. The other thing I was quite interested in is obviously it talks in the paper about it potentially expanding outside of the existing pilots as well. And I just wanted to ask about sort of like what geographical spread you would anticipate the year 2 proposal actually covering. Thank you.
If you could be, Lillian, if you could help us with that.
Oh, great. So I'll take your second question first. So in terms of spreading into wider geographies, this is something that was key for some of the programmes, some of the projects within the programme. So for example, West Nottinghamshire College have been working with the community, VCSE organisations and also NHS to tailor an offer for mental health support for young people. And year 1, the focus was really Nottinghamshire, but as they've been on this journey, they're realising that they need to spread more widely. So in year 2, they want to focus across the whole EMCCA region, Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, and the cities, to really look at how we set up a framework of support, working with community, voluntary sector, local authorities, and indeed the NHS. So this includes working with like GPs and local primary care networks in order to improve the offer for young people. We've also got Nottingham College that are leading on a piece of work, and actually it's not just focused in the city, they have many partners. And that will continue across Nottinghamshire in year 2 also. And let me see, what else have we got that's spreading widely? So in terms of the young entrepreneur offer, we've decided that that should be something that's developed that immediately covers the whole patch, for the reasons that, you know, persons in the room have said today. It's really something that's important in our current economy, especially for young people. So we want to be able to reinforce that. And yeah, so we are aiming to spread more widely. In terms of the existing provision, we do cover most of the EMCCA region in whole. Our colleges are working with young people that can get to them, quite frankly, and they're actually offering support to facilitate for transport also if there are any challenges there across their programmes. So the whole of both cities and Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire are covered by the FE College support, and that is a flexible learning programme delivered by Nottingham College and their partnership, the mental health support programme by West Nottinghamshire College, and also an Empowering Futures programme, which is really focusing on connecting young people with work and getting them work ready. And finally, what I just wanted to add to that is for Nottingham City, the project there, the personal development project, which is working with young people in workless household, that's really focused in the north and the south. So they're looking at areas like Broxtowe, Clifton also, and those are areas that were identified by the city councils as needing the most support. And so that's not changing for year 2. We do feel it's a bit premature to shift that, but historical data tells us that that's the right place to focus. So we're sticking with that there.
So, thanks very much for that, Lillian. And I think we ought to recognise and celebrate the fact that 300 young people, or more than 300 young people, have gone through the scheme, above what the original target was. And these days, of course, in that kind of world that those young people are in, social media is a big influence. And if they're giving positive stories about the journey they've gone through with EMCCA and where it's led them in terms of maybe into employment, or certainly getting interviews and they're doing well in them, that can spread. And if you build up that kind of expectation, we certainly need a second phase, don't we? Otherwise, all that goes nowhere in terms of responding to the maybe higher expectations and motivation to take the plunge and actually find a pathway into employment. So, all really good news. Councillor Walker-Gurley.
Thank you. Just start with welcoming the new members that we've got in the room, Fliss and it's Malcolm, isn't it? I met Malcolm the other week at Western Arts College. Good to see you, and Liz Barrett as well. We welcome the work that's already happening and the expansion of the support for young people, especially the entrepreneurship. Second, everything that Linda said as well. Literally took the words out of my mouth, really. Interested to work with EMCCA, to link with the county services, and conversations I think are already taking place on that as well. Thank you.
Are there any more comments? Sorry, I forgot to bring you in. Yeah, my apologies.
That's okay, thank you. Yeah, really welcome the report, and it's good to get the update that's contained here. And also, yeah, just to second everything that everyone's already said about the importance of entrepreneurship, particularly as that provides sort of alternate routes for young people where the sort of traditional ones may not work out for them. It enables them to sort of develop their own pathways into fulfilling employment. So that is really important. It's good to hear that that's going to be included going forwards. My question is, obviously, there's information. There's a comment in here that further reporting is being prepared on sort of like, you know, what those outcomes are, particularly for the 93 that have already completed the programme. It'd be really good to have a bit more information about that reporting and how it's going to come to this committee, so that, I mean, it's kind of a difficult thing to be in a situation where you're supporting the development of year 2 of a programme, but you still haven't got any detailed reports on year 1, and I understand why it happens, but it'd be really good to have that information as soon as possible. The other question I have is sort of a follow-on from the comment made by Councillor Woodings around sort of the development of the programme. Obviously, 301 people are being included and 93 haven't completed it is a good outcome, bearing in mind how short a period it's been running. Have we got any information on what the targets are for the number of people in year 2, and how many people we hope to reach? And is, you know, I'm assuming we're expecting to increase those targets, because obviously 5 million is a significant amount of money, and we'd hope we'd be reaching a slightly larger portion of, I think it's around 80,000 you know, young people 18 to 24 who are currently NEET, and how do we make sure that we are reaching a higher number of those, and as Councillor Williams said, across the region as well, making sure that we're getting that geographical spread. I just mentioned that specifically because obviously in the last paper it had the breakdown by sort of regions, sort of districts in terms of employment, and you know, there's a thing where obviously we want there's going to be some focus on areas with lower unemployment, but it's also important to remember that even in areas where the percentage is higher, I mentioned specifically because I'm a councillor for Broxtowe, where we are over the 80% threshold already, but we still have pockets, as in Eastwood in the north of the borough, where they have extremely poor outcomes for a lot of young people. And the other issue as well, and the reason I talk about like spread, is because in those areas one of the things that affects them is transport. I know that's a commitment from the Mayor and from EMCCA to improve that, but at the moment it's just not there, and it is hard for young people in those regions to get to training and employment and skills opportunities when it is outside the region. So making sure that we are working with those areas to make sure that, you know, there are opportunities provided that they can get to within those places, and not, you know, in the middle of the city, which is just, you know, unfortunately still inaccessible for some people, although we do hope to improve that in future. Thank you.
Lillian.
So I completely agree in terms of looking at, you know, where are we supporting young people, what are the kind of hotspots where we've got more young people engaging, and does that align with where we know there's the most need based on other data collected by partners. So we're just at the point now where because of the delay, this is the last quarter was the first quarter where engagement really geared up, and this quarter that we're in now, quarter 3, will be the first that we'll have engagement throughout the quarter with all of our projects starting. So I'm expecting to see much higher figures reported coming up. By the end of quarter 3, our current target's 416. So let's look at exceeding that when we get there. What we're going to be doing is, as we're getting more data coming through, we're going to be mapping the postcodes of support. At the moment, we've got some data where we've done gender splits and we've looked at ethnicity and we've looked at educational attainment. But what we're really looking to do is drill down on the areas that the young people that we're currently supporting live in, to see if we're reaching far and further enough and getting the really hard to reach needs, because that was the target for Youth Guarantee. So yeah, I think that's really important. And as that information comes through, we hope to provide more detailed breakdowns, and we would welcome specific requests because there's quite a lot of data. We have Chris Davies working with us as our data lead, who can do all sorts of magic that I absolutely cannot with data. So we'd be happy to take requests to look at what we can map and just, compare against different things as well.
Thanks, Lillian. I probably should know this, but do people on courses get passes, so they get free transport and things like that to their place of training or work?
So the cohort that we're mainly working with is 18 to 21. So that's not a standard support that they receive, but the young people we're also working with might be supported by the Job Centre or other organisations, and some of our programmes are specifically providing transport support. Each young person that goes through the Youth Guarantee, I just want to add, goes through a holistic assessment right at the beginning of the process to identify their barriers, and so those are addressed. So where transport is a concern, it is addressed. So in total, we're looking to engage 1,800 young people across the year, so it's quite a large figure. Those aren't the enrolment numbers necessarily, but I know that our contact numbers at the moment are surpassing 3,500. So it's really showing that for the cohort that we're working with, they are hard to reach. If you look at the contact versus the return, you can really see that, we don't get the response that, you might expect, but we're working hard and making sure that we continue to reach them.
So, it's really quite a dynamic thing that's moving quite fast. Lots of data's coming out, and I'm sure you will be updating us when you get really time to take stock and put that into a format that's really helpful for us to see what progress, what we've learned as well, what the data tells us about how we can do things better. And clearly that's a normal process for all of us who are in councils. When things happen, we get updates, and it's appropriate to get an update, but only when it's actually, you're not kind of taking yourselves away from the actual job of getting this working and really being effective. And then is the time, I think, to update us and let us know and that key thing about how can we do better for the next one. Have we any other questions or observations? Yes.
So I think on behalf of the colleges group for the East Midlands, I'd just like to say how much we have welcomed the introduction of the Youth Guarantee. I think for further education providers, it's been a real challenge to find the level of staffing and support from a funding perspective to be able to make that transition and facilitate that transition for young people following their studies in further education. And I think as we move forward into year 2 in particular, we need to start to really measure those long-term sustainable impacts of the programme, because I think if we can demonstrate to government that this is having a real long-term benefit and we are ultimately moving more of our young people into work with career prospects, then wouldn't it be fantastic if this just became part of core funding and it was just something that was part of what we do in terms of the services that we provide. Because I think one of the easy wins, the quick wins for us with this programme is our ability to use the infrastructure that we now have in place across all programmes within the combined authority to really engage more effectively with employers to try and act as that facilitator for those young people in terms of securing interviews and encouraging many more employers across the region to invest in a young person within their workforce and to grow and develop them. So I think we're absolutely delighted that we are moving into a year two, but I think the sooner we can start to share those case studies and those long-term benefits of each individual and the companies that have supported them and that are working with them, then we have a really good case to go to government to request that this is a long-term programme.
Thanks. I think that's a really very important message for us, and I think we're going to take that on board. These are pilots, and if they're successful, the idea I think is that they'll be rolled out nationally. So that's the first point. I did have another secondary point that you're going to make, but did you want to say something, Lillian?
Yes, I just wanted to, I realised I only partially answered your question, Councillor Bunn, but in terms of year two and our figures, we are being cautious there, you're right, because we're not as far into delivery as we would have hoped. What we don't want to do is over-promise and under-deliver. So we have suggested an increase that's only slightly above year one, knowing that we have yet to finalise the year two proposal. So by the time the DWP kind of get to the point of giving us feedback and us putting through our second iteration, we'll be able to have much more insight into the realistic figures, and we hope to increase them, and we will share those when those are ready. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Any other comments or observations? And in that case, if we look then at the recommendations, we have 3 recommendations, A, B and C. Note the performance of year 1 of the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer and endorse the proposal for year 2. I think we ought to add our thanks to officers for the work they've done on that, on the ground. So if we add that to A, and recommend to EMCCA board to delegate authority to the Executive Director of Strategy and Inclusive Growth in consultation with the East Midlands Mayor, the Section 73 officer, monitor officer, and in accordance with the contract procedure rules to enter into grants and contracts as required with suitably selected providers and make all necessary arrangements for the implementation of the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer in 26-27. A bit of a mouthful. Are we happy with that? Yes. And C, less of a mouthful but quite lengthy. To recommend to EMCCA board to delegate authority to the Executive Director of Strategy and Inclusive Growth in consultation with the East Midlands Mayor, the Section 73 officer and monitoring officer to make any necessary amendments to the proposal in response to feedback from central government and to finalise the government grant agreement. Are we happy with that? Yeah. Thank you. Then we can move on to item 8, which is Connect to Work mobilisation update. And I think it may be worth saying that I may have to declare an interest because Derby City's potential there is a potential that Derby City will participate in the Connect to Work procurement. But clearly I have no pecuniary interest whatsoever in that. I'll make that clear. So with that, then we'll ask again Fliss to introduce. Sorry.
It's going to be Tory, but I think Councillor Walker.
Councillor Walker, sorry.
I know it's been said already, sorry, I'll put that on. It's been said already, but we've got a conflict of interest with Futures as well, a bidding for the work, so it's co-owned with Nottingham City.
Right, and again, for you, no pecuniary interest. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll ask if the committee today is just note the progress of the Connect to Work programme since we last spoke about this in July. The report provides an update on the mobilisation of the programme, which, as you're aware, is a £44 million programme, DWP funded over 5 years, where we are looking to help over 12,000 of our residents who have health conditions, disabilities or other complex barriers to find and sustain good work. So our goal is very much to make employment support simpler, more joined up, more personalised, aligning with health, skills and community provision, so no one falls through the gaps. So in terms of the progress we've made since July, we have now submitted our delivery plan to DWP in the final draft version, which is going through the process with them now. That very much sets out how we'll commission and oversee the delivery of the programme, including the service design, the data framework and the financial management. We're also building our dedicated team within EMCCA, and the key appointments made so far since the summer is myself as the Head of Employability and Health, and we have a Data and Performance Lead, Dean Mitchell, who's from Mansfield, and our Programme Officer, Ella West, who's from just north of Derby. And we've got some additional resource planned in the form of a contract and claims manager to help us really robustly oversee the process, a locality partnership, relationship officers, and some more project support for the team too. And in terms of our procurement, which I'll only touch on loosely for the reasons we've discussed, we had a really strong market engagement back in August, and our procurement for delivery partners went live on the 1st of September. Bids closed on Monday, and we had a remarkable level of interest, and we intend to award to the suitable bidders in November. And this will be done through 2 lots, which are aligned with our integrated care board boundaries. So lot 1 covers both Derby and Derbyshire for the individual placement and support element, with lot 2 focused on Nottingham and Nottinghamshire for the IPS and the SEQF elements. So alongside this, we're also procuring a shared customer relationship management system, which is going to underpin the referrals, the employer engagement, performance reporting across all of the partners, both the procured and the grant-funded local authority work. Implementation will begin imminently, and that is also fully grant-funded within the DWP programme. And in terms of the response to the committee feedback following the July board, we are looking to introduce a single regional access portal, so there will be a no wrong door approach to the Connect to Work programme. Every referral will be tracked through the CRM to avoid duplication and to ensure alignment with other offers such as the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer and other similar programmes which will all look to support our residents. With regards to employer engagement, our delivery partners will be managing vacancies and in-work support locally, and EMCCA will help to coordinate that region-wide approach with our local authority employment teams to make sure that that is thoroughly covered without overloading the system or bombarding employers. And in terms of the transition from IPSPC, which is currently run by Nottingham City Council across 3 of our local authorities, EMCCA have been working closely with DWP and Nottingham to try and ensure a smooth transition. And the last update I had from Nottinghamshire is that it's looking to extend until early 2027. So we won't need to transition participants from one programme to the other, but have careful management of the staff moving from IPSPC into our programme, which should tailor with our ramp up and their ramp down, but work will be followed closely to ensure that there doesn't create any destabilisation in the system. And the last point that was raised was on learning and participant voice. Our intention is to establish the quarterly local learning forums to bring together both participants, providers and employers to share good practice and celebrate some of the good work that's coming out with case studies, which we'll look forward to sharing with you all. So you can really see that kind of lived experience as it's playing out. In terms of the funding, it remains at the 44.16 million phased over the 5 years, with our first 3.6 million looking to be drawn down in November, subject to the DWP approval and the grant funding agreement being signed. This is being released to us through a grant profile, not based on outcomes, with a clear performance framework with monthly returns to EMCCA from providers, which will be submitted as quarterly returns to the DWP. We are still expecting the funding to all be agreed in November, so we'll have our CRM in place and ready for our first referrals from the 1st of January, and we'll be monitoring these 3 monthly KPIs, quarterly reviews and the annual fidelity assessments, ensuring that providers are accountable with swift remedies to capture any underperformance before it becomes problematic. And so to sum up, mobilisation remains fully on schedule and within budget. And this is a really significant employment programme aligned to our health. So we hope to help thousands of people in creating a really joined up system across the East Mids, linking health, employment and skills in a way that really delivers everlasting change.
Thanks very much, Tori. And I'm sure board members would be pleased to know that at 3.5, as a result of our discussions, all our ideas and suggestions were incorporated into the plan to make it even more effective. So that's really good, and it shows you how, you know, in informal boards or formal boards, our input can help to make a better decision in terms of how a system or a scheme will operate. The other thing, it's really great to see that the youth voice will be captured, and it's actually what I forgot to mention on the previous item, which you'd actually said, and I think really getting the youth voice in any updates and particular evaluations, even if it's down to on going down the right hand side, you've got some speech bubbles with comments, you know, so it brings it to life, and it really just does. Instead of all sorts of figures and facts, you get actually the young person's voice shining through, and it makes it more powerful as a kind of evaluation, I think. Were there any comments? Councillor Woodings.
Thank you very much. Yes, obviously we're very supportive of this programme, and we're working hard to get involved in the regular mobilisation meetings as well. I just wondered, I'm very much welcome, and thank you very much for picking up on the comments that we raised previously about the cliff edge of funding that was coming to the IPSPC programme, and so it's very much welcome that they've got that additional 12 months to actually make sure, first of all, that one programme doesn't lose all of its staff straight away. And, you know, obviously they'd stopped taking new referrals into that programme as well on the basis of the fact that the funding might be stopping. So it goes back to the comment I made previously about this sort of like very short-term nature of some of the funding for programmes that is actually out there, and it would be very welcome to move away from that in future years as well. And certainly we're lobbying hard as far as that's concerned with government ministers as well. So it's really helpful to know that we'll have that. That there's a plan to have a better, a longer transition between one programme provider and another programme the new programme provider as well. I just wondered, I think we'll need a little bit more sort of like understanding outside of this meeting about how that's actually going to work in practice, so that everyone involved has some level of certainty about that. And similarly, the SEQF service as well. You know, I've been to visit some of I think I mentioned it previously, visit out some of the SEQF programs that are working out there as well at the moment. We're facing the similar issues, but it would just be good to understand how that will transfer over to the new provider, successful provider, as far as that is concerned as well. But yes, we're very keen to do all we can to make sure that we get as many referrals as possible into this programme, because we recognise it will make a massive difference. Health and work are so inextricably linked. So yes, just wondered if there's, it might not be for this meeting, it might be for outside of this meeting, as I say.
Claire.
If you're taking a number of points before you ask colleagues to come back.
Gives you a chance to think.
So I'm very pleased to see the progress on this, and particularly the engagement with the ICB and the NHS. Given the changes to the ICBs taking place with the mergers across the three of the counties, so Derby, Derbyshire, Nottingham, Nottinghamshire, and part of Lincolnshire, what assurances can we be given that none of the funding and relationships that we will be building in the two counties of EMCCA will be used in any way through subsidy to other parts of the ICB's responsibilities?
would you like to pick up those points, Tori, and do justice to them?
I'll absolutely try. So in terms of just going back to your point about the IPS, that's definitely something we're working closely with. I'm really glad to have wider conversations with you outside of this space, and glad you picked that up. In terms of the SE curve as well. Being really honest, the work with the ICB and the changes that are coming isn't something that we've been able to really plan for at this stage. It's been a case of getting the delivery plan together with the world as it looks today, but it's something we're very aware of, that we need to be ahead of the curve as that looks to come in, and really protecting what we've got within EMCCA that is rightfully ours to deliver to our residents, and making sure that we've got a really clear oversight of that, and working together holistically as a team to make sure we can keep that as we move forward.
Yes, Councillor.
It's the problem with being at the back, it's hard to see our hands, I think. Yeah, I really welcome the report, and it's good to see sort of some of the information that's in here, and some of the targets that are being set for upcoming delivery. I just had a question about sort of the procurement process, and for those of you that are on the committee will know that this is something I've gone about quite a bit. Is there anything within that procurement process where we are looking at making sure that we support providers who are based within the EMCCA region to be providing those things? Because as in, one of our priorities as a committee is to be providing skills and employment, and obviously we have an opportunity when we are funding programmes for delivery to actually create employment opportunities for people within this area at the same time as we are providing skills to others. So I just wonder whether there's any, if you could talk to us a little bit about how that's dealt with in the procurement process, and if not at the moment, if there are any future plans to make sure we're looking at that. And then the other question I had to raise was I really welcome that comment about simpler and more joined up processes. I think that's really important and something we really need to be doing. It's the amount of times that you come across people on from both sides, people who are trying to access support, who are likely to get sent here, there and everywhere and all over the shop, and trying to simplify that down so they can access support quickly and effectively is really important. And also the other side of that, from people that provide services who are just like, they have to apply here, there and everywhere for pots of money, and they're continually chasing funding, which means they can't focus on the really important thing, which is delivering that support. But I just want to make sure that when we are doing that, we're not losing the sort of smaller and more bespoke programmes that are provided. I've recently had quite personal experience of some of the support provided through Connect to Work sort of type of activities, and there are some, like I say, very small providers that provide excellent support, excellent results, and really good turnout. And it's make sure that, and I just want to check that our procurement process isn't going to prioritise large providers that can easily hit our targets, and we lose, like I say, those smaller and really effective programmes that are already provided in the areas.
So within our pre-market engagement, I was really encouraged by the number of organisations that wanted to speak to us, both from the big national companies to some really small niche charitable sector organisations. So within the procurement, which we are about to evaluate over the next week, we're expecting to see a really broad range. And in terms of how we manage that as a procurement process, we're obviously very clearly bound by the procurement regulations, which does tie our hands in being able to prioritise local providers. Is very much down to the strongest bid. But we do have weighting to the questions, which has been tailored as best we could to ensure that all organisations would have a fair opportunity to bid if they are able to deliver the service that we're looking for. So we're approaching it from a very procurement regulations position, but we are keen to see, and we're very encouraging of our local and small and medium enterprises to be part of the bidding process. And seeing other accountable bodies up and down the country, what we have seen in other areas where Connect to Work was further along than what we were, was there was very much a move for consortium bids of small organisations coming together. So whether or not we'll see that coming through our procurement process remains to be seen. But we certainly celebrate those aspects which are being delivered elsewhere, and would hope that we see a similar stance coming for here.
Can I just ask a quick question? So it's just, that's really good to hear, and I'm really pleased that that's sort of being factored into the process. So like I say, we've talked about previously, so I'd expect it would be, but it's really good to have that confirmation. Are we going to get a breakdown of some of those things about where the providers are located and sort of the size of them, and to see how effective that's been to the committee, or is it something that we can have circulated outside of the committee if that's more appropriate?
I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that and where it's most appropriate to share that information, but we can certainly take that away, and we'll share all that we can.
Thank you.
Councillor Woodings.
Yeah, thank you to Councillor Bunn for raising that point about procurement, because I think it's worth emphasising that the Procurement Act was changed back in February last year so that you could give greater weight to the social value of contract procurement. And also, just to say, some of the information that we get back shows that for many people, the locality and it being a very community-based locality provision is really, really important. My colleague, who's a councillor in Bilborough in Nottingham, was saying that, from her local people, that the provision needs to be in their locality, because actually the cost of the bus fare is something that is prohibitive to people actually accessing training, skills, any kind of services. The actual locality and embedding these services actually in the communities where they're needed is really, really important as far as the success of actually getting to those people. As I say, we call them hard to reach. I think my colleague Councillor Candola says we need to reach harder, frankly, to get to those individuals. So I'm hoping that will be reflected within the scoring, and an understanding of the fact that many young people in parts of Nottingham never come into the city centre. They'll see going to town as going to Bulwell rather than coming into the city centre. So I hope that we will have, obviously there'll be scoring within the procurement of contracts, and I hope that we will, there will be some transparency about the social value scoring of the contracts that are put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. We're in all grist to the mill in terms of the whole process, I'm sure. Are there any other comments? No? I think we're ready to move to looking at the... So for item 8, recommendation A is to note the progress on the mobilisation of the Connect to Work programme. I wonder if the board would be happy to add this and thank all involved in their reflective and solid efforts to make the programme even more fit for purpose. Would we be happy to add that to that recommendation? Yes. Yeah, okay. And recommendation B, to note the equality impact assessment for Connect to Work as set out in Annex A. We all went through that. It's a fairly standard thing. And we're happy with that as it presented. Yes, thanks very much. We then move to item 9, and Craig Moffat, the head of Adult Skills Programmes, will introduce item 9, please.
Well, thank you, Chair. Please excuse my gravelly voice this morning. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'll be jumping for water quite a bit. Nice to see everybody again this morning. First of all, I would like to note the update I presented at the previous informal Skills and Employment Committee on the Wave 5, 6 and performance, and also the Wave 6 commissioning approach, and then the new reporting available via the Power BI system. Not wanting to go over all ground, I'd like to take any questions if you've got any further from the previous committee and move on to the next item. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so the next agenda item is to ask, the ask of the committee is to gain endorsement for the Wave 7 planning and commission approach, and the next step is to take to EMCCA board for approval and delegate authority to the Executive Director of Strategy Inclusive Growth. Okay, so a bit of a background on previous skills boot camps, commissioning approaches. Boot camps isn't a devolved funding, it's delegated funding, which is an annual allocation provided by the DFE. Allocations are usually announced really late in the day, usually a couple of months before go live on previous waves. We hope the next Wave 7 we will receive allocations a lot earlier, and in readiness for planning for Wave 7 we want to prepare in advance for Wave 7 boot camps so we can maximise not just the spend, but the reach to the in the region for EMCCA residents. So the Commissioner's intention is to launch a procurement and a grant expression of interest process. So this is where independent learning organisations, our local colleges, local authorities and universities can access the fund. We will use a tried and tested Crown Commercial Services DPS that'll be used on the Adult Skills Fund. We currently have 140 learning organisations registered on this system, and this includes local and national learning organisations registered. The aim of this procurement though is to have a 3-year opportunity, so we're trying to reduce the cliff edge challenges with learning organisations re-tendering every year, but there will be an annual break subject to performance and quality provision provided, so we'll have those performance management frameworks all in place. We will do robust engagement events to engage with local organisations within the region, but it will be an open and competitive tendering process. Social value will be included through this process as well. But as I've said, in addition, we'll be offering opportunity to our colleges and local authorities and universities, and we've done quite a bit of pilot testing on Wave 6 to see how that's working. So we're taking a lot of best practice from this route, but we'll try and bring all the learning organisations together and work together on this future wave. So there's quite a bit of work to do on the analysis of what do we buy in terms of commission. So we're linking to the priorities of the local growth plan, including the Adult Skills Fund, Strategic Skills Plan and the priorities there. But we will be developing and utilising this data so we can have an informed approach. We'll look at data of where the problems are within the region, so not just on stakeholder engagement, but where all the unemployed rates are, where are the job vacancies across the region. And one of the examples to use is the high peaks, where there's a need for heritage construction skills. We'll be looking at quarry trades. Hospitality is a big need in the high peaks as an example. But we've got a true list, the current list isn't exhaustive, but we want to work with construction and green skills, heritage as I've just said. There's some electric static discharge training awareness which has been made clear there's a demand. Advanced manufacturing and engineering, composites, manufacturing fundamentals and waste, lean, ways of working. Contact centre, this is a DWP request, so there's a need there where there's jobs available for the progression into work. Transport, tourism, and we've got quite a bit of digital at the moment, but we don't have much AI, so we want to do some AI boot camps focused on artificial intelligence. But we are working with other combined authorities looking at their best practice because they've been doing this quite a long time before us. And there's a need for health and social care land-based, but it will be a truly employer-led programme. This is the point of boot camps. It's about developing skills for their needs. This is micro, SME and large employers. But one of the key things, as I've always said before, is joining up the Adult Skills Fund free courses for jobs. So if somebody wants to go on a boot camp but they don't have the digital entitlement requirements, they can do an ASF course first and then go on to a boot camps and do the AI course as an example. So we really want to join that up, but with other programmes such as Connect to Work as well, so have that kind of streamlined line of sight into a good job I've always mentioned before. Yeah, and that's me done. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Craig. Are there any questions on this? Again, we're kind of building up a momentum and things are going well. You've been really evaluative, making sure that you learn from things when you go on to the next phase. Some really good outcomes. I know it's going back a bit, it's a bit historical in terms of our discussions, but on 2.2 on Wave 5 performance, the transport, no job outcomes. Is it because they're too young when they get their licence, or they haven't got their licence because they're too young? Or
I think it may be an age and also a compliance.
Yeah.
Transport is a difficult one to get working. where there's health and safety and the test
Yeah.
at the end. So, but this is where we're working on that. This best practice.
Yeah.
What is working? What are the barriers
Yeah.
on this to go into wave 7?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Clearly, learning takes place, and we make courses. We don't want people to be going through courses and then they end up unable to get a job because of all sorts of reasons outside what they've done. Because it's not a particularly good motivator, unfortunately. But I'm sure it was worthwhile for them to do the course, but didn't result in a job. So a really solid work again done, really reflective work, and clearly wanted to widen the areas that can get involved, and then look at what are the needs of employers in that area, and are we getting people onto career paths that really help employers and those people on the career paths, and everyone benefits that way. Yes, councillor.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. I've always got questions. I've got one which was I had my hand up earlier, but I don't think it got seen again. Probably at the back, which was in the report that was given to the last informal meeting, there was a request to have some comparative data, and you said you were going to be working on that. I just wonder if we could have a quick update on when that would go down, whether we're going to have something for the next informal meeting, I'm not sure. And then my second question, which is on this report, and it was just I don't know whether this is possible, but obviously one of the things that comes up a lot in local government is that we have a lot of jobs that are advertised where people don't have the skills for local government roles, and just because obviously we were talking about like skills provision here and it might not be suitable, but I wondered whether that was one of the employers that was looked at and whether there was any work being done on making sure that we are providing training for the skills that our own like local governments need. You know, the amount of times that we have a job that goes out to advertisement and there's just not sufficient applicants because people just don't have the skills in the area to do the jobs that we need as local government, and it feels like that should be something that we can possibly work on matching up. Maybe not this fund, but maybe there's somewhere else we can. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. I will look at the screen so you can see, so I can see you as well at the same time. Yeah, so the comparative data in terms of the forecast of provision that learning organisations are planned to deliver will soon be available versus what's been delivered. So just to explain some of the technical areas, so the skills boot camps has just gone live on the individualised learner record, which is a system the Department for Education manages. This is a really, really good approach where the data will be, real, not in spreadsheets, structured. So then we can do the comparison, this is what you said you're going to deliver, this is actually what you delivered, and also, where are the job outcomes as well. So we will have that comparative data. It will be available. We have returns throughout the year. So we've got RO4, which is November next month. So we'll have the kind of real live data to share at the next meeting. And to just answer your second question, yeah, I totally agree. I think, we do need to do a robust engagement with employers because this is an employer-led programme. So what are the needs? And like I said, there could be other sectors we need to look at. Public sector, there's other areas, we can take on board there. So we need to understand where are the jobs, where are the skills gaps, and where can boot camps, and also the Adult Skills Fund, how can that plug the gap with those low level skills as well. But boot camps is more higher level, so how can we make that work, if that's helpful.
Any more? Yes.
I think it's just to say that we really do welcome having Craig and the team on board with that vast experience of working to deliver individual programmes, because I think part of the problem from a provider's perspective is when the lead time isn't sufficient to mobilise a programme and there are delays through procurement or certainly through the allocation of funds, it means that the programmes then are very much about delivering the funding to a time scale, when actually all of our programmes should be about delivering positive outcomes and progressions for our students, our residents and our employers. So I think in this case it is tight, isn't it, Craig, as we know, and I think having Craig and the team on board, knowing that for the future we need to really ensure that we've got as much lead time as possible so that every programme has a meaningful benefit. Thank you.
Any other observations or questions? No? Well, thanks very much for the discussion on that, and thanks, Craig, for giving us information where asked. So I think we're at the point where we go to looking at the recommendations. And for item 9, recommendation A is to note the performance of Wave 5 and mobilisation of Wave 6 boot camps. I'd like to add and thank all involved, if we're all happy. And are we happy with that recommendation? Yes, thank you. And for recommendation B, endorse the approach to planning for Wave 7 commissioning. And I would like to add, after with a comma, incorporating learning from previous waves. Yeah, just to make it clear that, you know, it is an iterative process, but it's also learning as it goes. So are we happy with that second recommendation? Great. Well, as it says in my script here, that concludes the business of the meeting, and thank you very much for your attendance and your engagement in the whole process and the decision making as well. I just wish you all a safe journey home. Thanks very much.